Late today, Mediaite released stunning and disturbing new audio of Trump associate Roger Stone discussing the assassination of Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell and Jerry Nadler with an NYPD cop weeks before the 2020 election.
Peace there, and go find Swalwell and get this over with. It's time to do it. Then we'll see how brave the rest of them are. Either Swalwell or Nadler has to die before the election. They need to get the message. And just not putting up with this again.
I will note that NBC News has not authenticated or obtained the audio ourselves. And Mediaite notes that the audio has been lightly edited to protect their source, who requested anonymity out of fear of repercussions from Stone. Stone has denied making these comments and told Mediaite before they published the audio that it was, quote, total nonsense. I've never said anything of the kind. More AI manipulation. Back with me are Cornell Belcher, Kimberly Atkins-Storr, and George Conway. I mean, I throw it out to the group. We are at the political assassinations phase of this hideous video game that we're trapped in, apparently. And I can't believe that I've now talked about political assassination twice in one bloody week.
Well, that is part of the case that needs to be made about Donald Trump, is we say, okay, well, democracy held during the first Trump administration. It was in part because there were at least some guardrails in place. Like there were lines that even Bill Barr wouldn't cross, right? Well, now he is totally surrounded by people like Roger Stone, people who will not be a guardrail, people like his attorneys. And that is what is so incredibly dangerous about this. Another term is not just him hypothesizing about shooting someone on Fifth Avenue. Yeah. That was sort of like, everyone's like, oh, he's joking. No, another term is him full of grievance. He said what he wants to do. He wants to purge the federal government of anybody except those who are loyal to him. He wants to weaponize the DOJ. We know what he wants to do because whatever he accuses Joe Biden of doing is what he actually wants to do. The vision of what the United States will be under a second Trump term without guardrails is truly frightening. And that is the number one case that Democrats need to make.
And let's not forget that Mark Esper has said that he did want him to shoot people at protests. Let's talk about Roger Stone for a moment. Roger Stone is the guy who, in the summer of 2020, looked at the polls, saw that his guy was losing, that Donald Trump was losing, and said, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to declare victory and say we won anyway. So this is the guy who was in on the idea beforehand that they were just going to lie because they knew they were going to lose. Now you've got him talking with a cop, a former cop, about killing two Democratic representatives. Will there be any fallout from that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you can do to Roger Stone. I mean, if he's just talking about it, I don't know that it suffices for a conspiracy or anything. You need an agreement to put somebody in jail. But it just goes to show, I mean, if this is real, I mean, the fact that we can even think it's real tells you a lot about the people who surround Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump himself is a man without any moral compass. He's a man without conscience. He's a man without remorse. He's a man without empathy. And the only thing that he cares about is himself. And he surrounded himself with people, an increasing number of people who also lack moral compasses. And that's the point that you're very much absolutely right making. And that this is the reason why it's going to be much, much worse and so dangerous to the Republic. I mean, this is a man who's already talked about suspending the Constitution. It's a man who tried to stop the peaceful transition of power. It's a man who would stop at nothing to wreak revenge on his perceived enemies. The only criteria is, can I get away with it?
And again, it is a long con, right? Being president was a great moneymaker for him, for his businesses that were, some of which were failing otherwise. It's a way for him to stay out of prison because he'll just cancel all the cases against him, throw everyone he doesn't want in jail. But again, this week, we're talking about his lawyer going into a federal court and saying that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, a president, I guess he doesn't think Joe Biden should be able to assassinate their political opponents. Now you've got his buddy allegedly saying that he wants to assassinate members of Congress. And again, Mark Esper, his former defense secretary, said he wanted him to shoot people, and Esper wouldn't do it.
It's thug behavior.
It's thuggery.
But here's what I want to say, sort of in the political context of it all, is go back to 2004. And when I was doing polling for the DNC, one of the things that was a bedrock of a Republican Party and something that helped them win the suburbs, and especially moderate middle America, was this idea that they were a party of strong values. They were a party of strong morals and values. And even if Democrats had advantage on education and issues of health care, the central value that middle America's clung to was this ideal that they were strong values. And George Bush was a good man. He's a strong man of values. He goes to church, right? He loves his wife.
Right.
Those things. I find it hard to believe. And it's not the one thing, Joy. I think it is, as the old folks would say, it's a tide. It's a damnable tide of these things that I think if you put this case before moderate middle America, and I still do have faith in democracy, I still have faith in the majority of American people. If you put this to that suburban mom in Wisconsin, that suburban mom outside of Atlanta, and look at this, and she's going to say, these are not good people. These are not the values that I want to instill in my children and my family. And I think that bedrock of voters are going to continue to slowly move toward Biden and the Democrats because the Republicans have lost it.
The thing is, we were going to talk a lot about Bill Ackman today. We didn't get into him as much. And this is the whiny, big-time Harvard donor who's apparently now, it turns out, really mad because Claudine Gay wouldn't call him back and do what he told her to do and take his advice. And he's angry because, he tried to take her down for plagiarism. But then his wife, turns out she was plagiarizing Wikipedia. Allegedly, he claims she did not. He denies it. But, I mean, it is a sort of party, that ethos of rich and whiny, rich and entitled, rich and aggrieved, and saying, I have the money, but I don't have the respect that I'm due. I'm not getting the respect I deserve. And I think Republicans believe that regular people will relate to the rich, whiny people who are mad because a black person got a job.
Well, they're treating democracy like a zero-sum game, or the American dream as a zero-sum game. And that's part of Trumpism. That's a core part of Trumpism. They're getting this, and they're taking it away from you. The immigrants are coming here, and they're taking away your safety, your jobs, your this. Black people are getting jobs that they don't deserve, that you ought to, and this is what you rail against. It's just like even during Obamacare, people, even who would benefit from getting Obamacare, still opposed it because they didn't want people who weren't them to get this care.
Yeah.
It's fueling this idea that, we've all, we've experienced that. I remember after Jason Blair, the journalist who plagiarized, all of my work as a journalist, a young journalist, got scrutinized, extra scrutinized. People asked why I got a job and somebody else didn't. This is what they want. They want to fuel that grievance in order to get ahead. And it doesn't matter that there are millionaires and billionaires are the ones that are so aggrieved and trying to get other people.
And are the ones that are perverting the system for themselves to lead us right back to where we started. They're the ones who don't go to jail when they commit crimes. They're the ones who buy their way out of trouble, and regular people cannot. And it's so odd to me that they would relate to them and not to their fellow regular folks. But we'll see what happens.